Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, your fellow at the Media Research Center. There's much to do about nothing with all of these whistleblowers coming out. And I'm getting kind of confused that we have one whistleblower that had secondhand or third-hand information. Now, another whistleblower has come out that wasn't there, but that they have the secondhand information from the second or third-hand information of the first whistleblower. I'm confused. What it seems to me is that the progressive socialist leftists continue to do exactly what we knew they would do: investigate Donald Trump ad nauseum, ad infinitum, to undermine and attempt to pull what I can only call a coup d'etat against a duly elected president. They really don't have any evidence. They really don't have anything to stand on. But I think the most important thing that constitutional conservatives need to do is to stop buying into putting ourselves on defense against the left. What I would like to do is kind of shift the narrative. Let's talk about the case for impeaching Barack Obama. And I want to bring out a couple of points that I think will drive it home. It's irrefutable. There's no doubt about the facts that stand in this case. And I think that, well, it shows the hypocrisy of the left in that when all of these things were happening, we were told to say nothing. That Barack Obama, well, according to him and Joe Biden, they had a scandal-free 8 years in their administration.
And I was most proud of, for 8 years, there wasn't one single hint of a scandal or a lie.
But first, let's start out with, I think it was March of 2009, when President Obama went to Cairo, Egypt. He was going to make an address to reach out to the Muslim world. But the funny thing was that President Obama requested a well-known Islamic terrorist organization to be seated front and center at his address. They're called the Muslim Brotherhood. And if you want to understand treason, I think that when you are inviting a declared enemy, an enemy that is listed on many terrorist watch lists of many nations across the world, I don't think the Muslim Brotherhood should have been sitting there listening to our president deliver an address. But what's even more perplexing is that President Obama and the Obama administration supported the Muslim Brotherhood candidate for the president of Egypt, and that was Mohamed Morsi. And even when Mohamed Morsi was elected, President Obama sent him congratulatory notes. And the Obama administration sought to provide military aid and support to the Muslim Brotherhood-controlled government of Egypt. How do you think that works out, that we are going to provide M1A1 Abrams tanks and other support to a known Islamic terrorist group, an organization that's linked to, well, Hamas, which operates in the Gaza Strip?
I don't think that we would consider them an ally, but we don't consider them an enemy. They are a new government that is trying to find its way.
But then all of a sudden, the people of Egypt, who were very angry with President Obama, they rose up. And Abdel Fattah el-Sisi became the new president. And what did the Obama administration do? If you want to talk about support to foreign nations and foreign policy, they decided they were not going to support el-Sisi. They declared what el-Sisi did as a coup. They would have rather stood the Muslim Brotherhood-backed government than el-Sisi, who represented reforms against the Muslim Brotherhood. And just in case you didn't know, it was the Muslim Brotherhood that assassinated Egyptian President Anwar Sadat. But going along those same lines of providing military aid and comfort and support to Islamic terrorist organizations, let's talk about how President Obama outsourced our military to Islamic jihadists in Libya. Yeah. And we know that Muammar Gaddafi was really trying to negotiate an exit. Now, he was not the greatest of guys, but he was also the guy that turned over everything about his nuclear weapons program to us. And he understood that if America wanted him to go, he was willing to step down. But that wasn't good enough for Barack Hussein Obama, who used our military assets, close air support, intelligence assets, and even funneled weapons to Islamic terrorist organizations in Libya, who, of course, ended up overthrowing the government and assassinating Muammar Gaddafi. But what was interestingly enough that happened subsequent to that was that President Obama secretly sent the CIA in to have a weapons buyback program from one group of Islamic jihadists and was going to try to funnel it to another group to try to stop the spread of ISIS, something that he somewhat created since he left a void in the Middle East, especially in Iraq. But that is where a sad day in America's history happened, when 4 Americans were killed at a place called Benghazi, Libya, in an Islamic jihadist attack. But according to President Barack Hussein Obama, it was all about a video.
What this began as was a spontaneous, not a premeditated, response to what had transpired in Cairo. In Cairo, as you know, a few hours earlier, there was a violent protest that was undertaken in reaction to this very offensive video that was disseminated. We believe that folks in Benghazi, a small number of people came to the embassy or to the consulate rather, to replicate the sort of challenge that was posed in Cairo. What happened in Benghazi was, in fact, initially a spontaneous reaction to what had just transpired hours before in Cairo, almost a copycat of the demonstrations against our facility in Cairo, which were prompted, of course, by the video.
But even as those men were under attack by Islamic terrorists, no support, no aid, no comfort was given to them, unlike what President Obama was willing to give to the Muslim Brotherhood or the Islamic jihadists there in Libya. And because of his inaction, Ambassador Chris Stevens lost his life. Sean Smith, Tyrone Woods, and Glenn Doherty. And to this day, no one has been held accountable.
What difference at this point does it make?
You want to talk about impeachable offenses? Providing material support, aid, and comfort to the enemy in Libya. And even this should upset us all. The remains of those 4 Americans, it wasn't an American aircraft that came to pick up those remains. That is salt that goes into that wound. And continuing on to talk about material support and comfort and aid to the enemy, we want to talk about foreign policy. Why did President Obama send pallets, billions of dollars of laundered cash in an unmarked airplane in the middle of the night to the world's #1 state sponsor of Islamic terrorism, the Islamic Republic of Iran? And now the left will say that that was money that was owed to Iran. Not so fast, my friends, as Lee Corso would say on ESPN, because we went into an arms agreement with the Shah of Iran. When the Shah of Iran was deposed by the Ayatollah Khomeini, we decided not to send money to, well, the Islamic Revolution that had, of course, held Americans, taken over our embassy and held Americans for a little over a year. Many U.S. presidents, Democrat and Republicans, had never sent billions of dollars to Iran over that arms deal. But yet, Barack Hussein Obama figured that billions of dollars should go to the #1 state sponsor of Islamic terrorism in the world. And of course, it ended up in the hands of Hezbollah. Impeachable offense, treason, high crime, misdemeanor. Consider this: the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iranian nuclear agreement, that was not passed through our U.S. Senate. As a matter of fact, the Democrats filibustered. It was just an unconstitutional, unilateral action by Barack Obama. An agreement with the #1 state sponsor of Islamic terrorism. Now, everyone's up in arms about so-called President Trump withholding aid from Ukraine. But when Dmitry Medvedev leaned over and President Obama in 2012 said,
my last election, yeah. After my election, I have more flexibility.
Yeah, I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir and understand what.
What quid pro quo is that? What was that flexibility? Was it the flexibility to allow Russia to overtake the Crimea, then also overtake eastern Ukraine? And when the Ukrainians were asking for help, military aid, comfort, assistance, the kind of aid that Barack Obama was sending to Islamic terrorists or to the Muslim Brotherhood, he sent socks and MREs to Ukraine while the Russian tanks were rolling into their country. So when I think about this whole manic, kabuki theater that the progressive socialist left is going through, once again, Russia, 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 now Ukraine, they said nothing when Barack Obama was doing these things, which really a word, treasonous, high crimes, misdemeanors, undermining our foreign policy, aiding and abetting and supporting the enemies of the United States of America. Instead of us defending President Trump, let's talk about the case for impeaching Barack Obama.